talking about it." When Aladdin heard this, he was very unhappy. "What can I do?" he thought. He put his head in his hands and thought for a long time. And when night came, he took out the magic lamp and rubbed it. Whoosh! "What is your wish, master?" said the genie of the lamp. "Bring Princess Badur al-Budur to me," said Aladdin. "To hear is to obey." In a second, the genie was back with the princess asleep in his arms. He put her carefully on a bed, and then the princess opened her eyes and saw Aladdin. "Who are you?" she asked, afraid. Aladdin took her hand and looked into her eyes. "My name is Aladdin, and I love you," he answered. "I cannot live without you, and I want to marry you." Badur al-Budur saw the love in his eyes and smiled. She closed her eyes again. Then the genie carried her back to the Sultan's palace. The next morning, she remembered Aladdin's eyes. "There is no love in the eyes of the vizier's son," she thought. "He thinks only of gold and of jewels." So the princess went to her father. "I do not want to marry the vizier's son," she said. "I want Aladdin for my husband." The Sultan was very surprised. "What can we do?" he said to his vizier. "My daughter wants to marry this man Aladdin. He is a rich man, it is true. But who is he?" "Ask him," said the vizier quickly, "for more of those beautiful jewels on 40 gold plates and 40 slave girls with 40 slaves. Nobody is that rich." "Very good," smiled the Sultan, and said to his slaves, "Bring Aladdin's mother to me." When Aladdin's mother arrived, the Sultan said, "So, your son wants to marry my daughter. But first he must give me 40 gold plates with jewels, 40 slave girls with 40 slaves must carry the plates to me. Then my daughter can be his wife." Aladdin's mother went home and told her son, and Aladdin smiled. This was easy for the genie of the lamp, of course, and the next day, when Aladdin went to the palace, everybody in the city came out to watch. First came 40 slave girls in dresses of gold, and every girl carried a gold plate with wonderful jewels on it. After them walked 40 slaves in coats of gold, and last came Aladdin on a beautiful white horse. "What do you say now?" the Sultan said quietly to the vizier when he saw all these wonderful things. "Aladdin must marry my daughter. How can I say no?" And the Sultan went to Aladdin and took his hands. "My son," he said, "you can marry my daughter tonight." "Tomorrow, Your Majesty," said Aladdin, "because before I marry your daughter, she must have a palace, the most beautiful palace in Arabia." The genie of the lamp worked all night, and the next morning the Sultan saw from his window a beautiful new palace with gardens of fruit trees and flowers. "Wonderful," he said. "Black magic," said the vizier quietly. That night Aladdin married Badur al-Budur, and they lived happily in the new palace. With Aladdin, Chapter 5. New Lamps for Old. Where was Abanazar all this time? When he could not get the lamp from Aladdin, he went home to Morocco. He was very angry with Aladdin. "But the boy is dead now," he thought, "and perhaps next year I can go back and get the lamp." One day he got out his 7 black stones. These stones were magic, and when he put them in water, the water could tell him many things. Soon he could see the magic lamp in the water, but it was not under the white stone in the Arabian hills. It was in a palace. "How did this happen?" said Abanazar. "I must go back to Arabia and find this palace." After some months, he arrived again in the city in Arabia. Soon he saw the new palace and asked a man in the street, "Who lives there?" "That's Aladdin's palace," was the answer. "Princess Badur al-Budur's husband, a good man and very rich." Abanazar said nothing and walked away. "That lazy, good-for-nothing boy," he thought angrily. "So he has the magic lamp, and he knows about the genie. How can I get the lamp back?" For the next week, Abanazar watched Aladdin's palace. One day, Aladdin and his friends left the palace to go hunting in the hills. "Good," Abanazar thought. "Now I can get the lamp." After Aladdin left, Princess Badur al-Budur went into the palace gardens. She sat under a tree and looked at the flowers. Then she heard a noise in the street and called her slave girl Fawzia. "What's the matter? Who's making that noise?" she asked. "Fawzia, go and look in the street." When Fawzia came back, she had a smile on her face. "Mistress," she said, The children in the street are laughing at an old man. He's selling lamps, but not for money. New lamps for old, he cries. Give me an old lamp, and you can have a new lamp. So everybody's getting new lamps. Badur al-Budur laughed. Do we have an old lamp for him? Yes, my husband's old lamp. Go and get it. The princess knew nothing about the lamp or its magic. Fawzia went into the palace and came back with Aladdin's lamp. Here it is, mistress, she said. Go and